Hi, welcome to Community Hotline. My name is Monica Weitzel. We're here in Gresham at MetroEast Community Media. And now I'm happy to introduce you to Nancy Hawk, who is the co-director of Basic Rights Oregon. Thanks for being here, Nancy.
Hi, Monica. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Basic Rights Oregon has been in the news a lot as far as all the work you've been doing as far as the rights of LGBTQ individuals, and you've made some immense strides, and it's been kind of a banner year, really. It seems like there's been so much going on, and people are finally starting to get it. You know, that's how I feel. They're finally starting to get it. Okay, yes. This is we're talking human rights. But tell me a little bit about how the organization itself got started, maybe what your mission is.
Sure. We started 19 years ago, and our mission really is for equal rights for the LGBTQ community in Oregon. And so we're the largest advocacy, political, education organization in Oregon for LGBTQ advocacy. And what we really came out of is that there were a lot of attacks. Actually, Oregon has had more attacks at the ballot measure against the LGBTQ community than any state in the nation.
What do you mean by attacks? Right.
So LGBT ballots.
Stuff that shows up on the ballot.
Yeah, for instance, Measure 9, you might remember, Measure 36.
Yeah.
And
there's certain groups that were always in there.
You know, yeah. And so, so we really came out of, you know, hey, we keep being attacked at the ballot. What if we had an organization that wasn't just defending our rights, but actually really thinking about what we want, what we want to win, how we can actually fight for LGBTQ equality on a stage, on our own terms.
Right, and be proactive about it instead of just waiting to react to whatever somebody throws at you.
Right, and so it's been, we've made amazing gains in the past 19 years.
It has been amazing. I'm very impressed actually with how things have changed. You look back to civil rights of the 60s, and there's some parallels there between the fight that is going on now, but it's always a struggle, and it's still ongoing. What do you find is the hardest thing for people to understand about the whole situation, about yes I'm gay, or I'm lesbian, or I'm transgender, or whatever? What's the hardest thing for people to understand about that aren't?
I think in 2015, the hardest thing for people to understand is why we're still here, why we're still fighting. A lot of people thought that when marriage passed, we were done, and we're so not done. Yeah. There's so much work to do, and I think that, and I know that people are still being let go from jobs because of their sexual orientation or their gender expression or their gender identity. People are still facing, like if you look on the streets of downtown Portland, 40% of the youth on the streets identify as LGBTQ.
And that's a high ratio. I mean,
it is. And people are being kicked out of their homes because they're LGBTQ. People are being bullied in school, so they feel like it's not safe. There is so much work to do in our state, and I think it's really important for everyone to understand that, we've made immense gains, and that's really exciting, and that, we're not done.
No, and one thing I hear about a lot is that LGBTQ youth of color have probably one of the hardest roads to hoe because they've got like a mix of things going against them. That those are biases out there that people say, oh, well, you're this and you're this and you're this, and how do I identify? And it can be a really, really hard place to be in. And there's a really high suicide rate, which is just
there's
really, really
sad. It's one of those things that's very it's really challenging and really hard to think about, but like the trans community in particular 40% again, 40% of trans-identified folks have attempted or at least thought about suicide, which is a huge number of people. And so, I think that what we're trying to do, is not just, we're trying to build the policies that make people's lives possible, but I think we're also part of a cultural shift where people are allowed to love who they love and be who they are and move through the world and be safe and be able to be employed and not harassed or, identified by police as someone who's potentially a criminal, and so
those are really tough things to work against, and just for being who you are.
Right.
And I find that really amazing that there are a lot of people with a lot of courage out there that are going through some tough times. Tell me about some of the, you mentioned marriage, and that obviously was a big thing this year. Tell me about some of the other successes and victories you've had.
Yeah, this year in the Oregon State Legislature, we were able to pass a ban on conversion therapy, which was this outdated, outmoded.
We're talking about psychologists and psychiatrists, that kind of.
So this is this idea that, so this is for people under the age of 18, that these children and youth would go to a therapist who would either pray the gay away or otherwise change who they are.
And I really shouldn't laugh, because I know that people that believe that, they believe it, and they have the right to believe what they want to believe, but everybody has the right to be treated with respect, and you are who you are. That's kind of how I feel, and that's my belief.
And so this is just saying, like, if you're an accredited therapist in Oregon, you're not allowed to do a practice, which every medical board has said is not acceptable, and which a lot of people think stopped in the 1950s or 60s, but it still happens.
Wow.
We had people testifying who are 19 years old who went through it last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it wasn't. I got asked the question, "Oh, isn't that just something that used to happen?" It's like, no, it's still happening today in Oregon, and so it was definitely a huge victory for our youth, so that they're free from being told by a medical professional or someone in the therapy profession that they're not okay, because
there's something wrong with you.
And we really, I know that it's a campaign, but really, every child is born perfect, and you really have to believe that, and I believe that.
Yeah, I like that. What other kinds of things have been going on that you feel good about? Yeah,
at Basic Rights Oregon, we take a intersectional approach to our work, and so we're not just thinking about the bills and policies that when you look at them, they're like, oh, this only affects the LGBTQ community. We're also thinking about the totality of our community. And so we're not just, I just don't identify as being LGBTQ. I'm also a person of color. I come from a Muslim family. I'm also a mother. My life
There's
is,
a lot of labels there.
I have a lot of identities. And our community is very diverse. And so we think about economic justice, for instance. And so, so we fought for, paid sick days, which was a huge victory in the state legislature this year. We think about, retirement security. We were part of, all of those things matter to our community just as they matter for
to everybody.
All Oregonians.
So we should all be treated equally there.
Yes.
You did bring a video, or you provided us a video, and I'd like to take a look at that so we can get a little more information about Basic Rights Oregon. See it now.
We have made huge progress for LGBTQ equality in Oregon, and we're not done.
Working together, we've made Oregon one of the best places in the country for LGBTQ people to live and work. But there are others in communities around the state where lived equality remains elusive. There are folks around our state who don't feel comfortable coming out. They don't feel comfortable sharing who they are with their family, friends, or coworkers. Our youth are facing alarming rates of suicide and homelessness. Transgender communities experience significant levels of violence, poverty, and suicide. And if you're a person of color and LGBTQ, the obstacles you face are even more daunting. Oregon is a bellwether state. We must continue to lead for all Oregonians.
During the past year, we've been asking for your feedback. More than 1,000 Oregonians responded through stakeholder interviews, online survey, and listening sessions.
We will focus our work within communities that need us most. LGBTQ youth,
LGBTQ people of color,
transgender and gender nonconforming people,
LGBTQ Oregonians living outside of Portland.
An intersectional approach to advocacy is critical for us to reach any equality. I am here today as a proud Black, Hispanic, East Indian, and gender fluid immigrant from Jamaica. The thing is, I cannot leave any of those identities behind me. I come as one person. It's important that organizations and this entire movement recognizes that. Queer Intersections Portland has been a proud partner of Basic Rights Oregon because it recognizes that LGBTQ youth are not the same, and one size does not fit us all. It's critical for each of these organizations and for us as a movement to recognize that we all have different identities that make us a whole person, and each of those individual identities matter.
We will continue to secure LGBTQ equality through legislative wins.
We will continue building lasting political power for LGBTQ Oregonians with our ability to advocate effectively in every community in Oregon.
Basic Rights will continue to build coalitions and partnerships to contribute to lasting, vibrant movements for LGBTQ justice, racial justice, and progressive politics.
We will support and implement policy victories through education in communities throughout Oregon.
We will build organizational capacity and stability so we remain a force in Oregon for the next 20 years.
Basic Rights Oregon is made up of inspiring, strategic organizers who are driven by LGBTQ communities' deep need for justice.
We act from the memory of where we came from as a community and a movement.
We empower.
We educate.
We seek to be dependable allies.
We strive to be accountable.
We are Basic Rights Oregon.
I like that. It was a very upbeat kind of a message there. And they talked about what's next, and that was my next question, what's next? So there is a lot ahead. How can people get involved, whether they're, straight or otherwise? How can people get involved to support?
Right, Basic Rights Oregon, we have 200,000 people in our database. They're not all gay.
Right. It's basic rights.
Right.
It's human rights.
It is, and I think that there's plenty of space for allies to be involved. I think that we're really wanting to engage people, not just in Portland or in Gresham, but around the state. And so, you can contact us at basicrights.org, and we're really committed to expanding our work across the state. We're thinking about every county, every community, really just knowing that there's places in Oregon that feel unsafe for people to live and work and love who they love.
That's not okay.
It's not okay. Yeah. And so, it's one thing to have equality in the laws, but we really want people to feel lived equality. And I think that's really important. And so contact us at basicrights.org. And then there's upcoming events. We have Ignite, which is a really fabulous
I saw that was
party.
That's your big fundraiser, right?
It's a big fundraiser, October 30th at the Portland Art Museum.
Should be fun.
It's super fun. Yeah. It's really fabulous.
There's a VIP dinner. There's entertainment. There's a live auction.
Yes.
I was just reading about that. That sounded like
and a dance party.
And a dance party.
Most importantly, yes.
I can just see it. It would be fun. I bet that would
There's
be
a dance party with 1,000 people, which is just great.
That sounds good.
At the museum. And and I think that it's really important for folks to stay engaged. The fight for LGBTQ equality is far from over. Today in the paper, there was an article about a young woman who was let go from her job because of identifying as LGBTQ, in this day and age. And she was outraged, and as we all were.
Was that at a high school here?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
And so I think that, we're still fighting for employment equality. We want to work with employers to talk about how you build a fair workplace for all people, LGBTQ, and who are maybe have a different gender expression than you're used to, and so, yeah, there's a lot of work moving forward.
Doesn't sound unreasonable to me. So
yes.
Thank you, Nancy, so much for being here and
well,
explaining a little bit about Basic Rights Oregon. So if people are interested, want to get involved, go to the website, check it out. There's volunteer opportunities, and it's just sometimes it's just a conversation with others to let them know that, to work those things out and help people understand. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching this segment of Community Hotline. We'll be right back with more.
Local government is a very important part of our daily lives. You might think the decisions that affect us most are made in Washington, D.C., but frequently what happens at the local level has the biggest impact. Safe and clean streets and parks, local ballot measures to ensure funding for police, these are just a few of the issues that matter most. At MetroEast, we provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of local government so you can see what's happening in your East County cities. Watch city councils, planning commissions, and school boards on these cable channels or online.